morning. Thanks, worship team, for leading us through thinking about and processing God's purposes for our lives, worshiping Him, inviting the nations to worship Him. We want to explore that a little bit more now. Let's take a moment to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us in your name. We've gathered here to meet friends, and we've gathered here to sing. We've gathered here to bring our kids, to invest in their lives. We've gathered here because somebody invited us for whatever reason. But ultimately, you have a purpose for our gathering, and so we submit to you and ask you that you would accomplish your purpose right now through your word, through this worship singing we've been doing, through the speaking that will happen, through a video that will play, through an interview that will take place here in a moment. Thank you for what you're going to do. We give ourselves to you in Jesus' name. Amen. My name is Dan, and many of you, Ann and I, and our son Lanny, we've been a part of this church family for the last few years. And it's so exciting to be a part of a church family who puts their money where their mouth is when it comes to caring about the needs of other people. And their time where their mouth is. Not just going to Mexico, but going across the street and across the town and across the campus. So I'm excited about that. And Ann and I have been part of International Student Ministries for 7 years. It's been in existence actually for 31 years this year. And it's all across Canada, where we're really believing that God would allow us, in our partnership with churches and other organizations and people all across this nation, reach out to the 400,000 international students across Canada that are right here from well over 100 nations. What an opportunity we have to empower them to impact the world. Our songs that we've been singing this morning have leaned towards that. God's heart for the world, God's heart for us, and then God's invitation for us to join Him as ministers of reconciliation. And I love the very first song, or one of the first songs we sang, and called Missions Flame. Did you pick up on that? Let worship be the fuel for missions flame. We're going with a passion for your name. We're going because we care about your praise. Send us out. I want to start with this question. What on earth are we doing here? Or asked another way, what are we doing here on earth? Do you think about that much? Purpose-Driven Life was a bestseller for a number of years, the book. Next to the Bible. Bible's always the bestseller in every language. Don't even know that. It continues to be. But Purpose-Driven Life, for 2 years, it was the #1 bestseller. In North America, and I think around the world, in many, many different translations. Why did that capture the attention of the world so much? And why did the song You Were Meant to Live for So Much More by Switchfoot, which came out almost the same year, actually a few years apart, but both driven by this idea that we want to know why we're here. We want purpose and meaning. We don't want to just exist and breathe and die. We want to know that our life matters, that it counts for something. So it's a good question to ask ourselves regularly, what are you doing on earth? What are you doing here? What am I doing here? If we don't know the answer to that, what are we doing? Wasting our time, spinning our wheels, wondering whether we're making a difference. Well, I'm going to sum it up this way. We're here to glorify God, and that's what the Missions Flame song was about. Let worship be the fuel for missions flame. In other words, God is looking for worshipers. He roams around. His Spirit looks around looking for worshipers. Who acknowledges God for who He is? That's what He's looking for. He's looking for, do you acknowledge God for who I am? Do you see God as the source for all that you need? Do you acknowledge that He is the supreme God who loves you and cares about you? And would actually send His own Son to die on the cross for you? Wow, do you recognize that? Do you worship Him? Do you honor Him as first in your life? He's looking for worshipers. That's our goal, because our #1 goal is to glorify Him, to worship Him. Westminster Shorter Catechism says that the aim or purpose of life, purpose of humankind, is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. Wow. Glorify God and enjoy Him forever. It's not glorify God and then live a life of a terrible existence, of wondering if you're loved, of drudgery and obedience to this distant deity. No. To glorify God and enjoy a relationship with Him. He wants a relationship with you and me. And He wants us to help other people to have that experience. Glorifying God and enjoying Him forever. Well, we often ask, well, how do I do that? How do I glorify God? Certainly through worship, singing. But that's a tiny, small piece of bringing glory to God. It's a tiny piece of worship. our worship singing. It's easy to look at these two things together, the Great Command and the Great Commission, and see that this fleshes out our purpose. This gives us understanding. And the Purpose-Driven Life book was based on this idea that all 5 purposes why we exist, under the banner of glorifying God, come out of these 2 things that Jesus said, the Great Command and the Great Commission. Well, what's the Great Command? Anybody know, without looking ahead to the next slide? What's the Great Command? Just yell it out. Love the Lord your God. What else? Love your neighbor. That really sums it up. Go ahead to the next slide. Jesus said in Matthew 28 or 22, love God, love others. You know what? That sums up all the law. That sums up everything God wants from you. Glorify Him by loving Him and loving other people. Vertical relationship, horizontal relationship. Or another way that Pastor Dave has put it, peace or shalom with God, myself, with others, and with creation. Amen. Shalom. Being at peace with God and others in our environment around us. So the Great Commandment helps us to understand how to glorify God. Love Him. Receive His love. Love others. Receive their love. We're built for relationship. And then the Great Commission. A commission is like a job description. It's like, what do I do now? How am I going to be evaluated? How will I know when I got the job done? Well, that's what your job description is for. A commission. A commissioning. It's someone laying their hand on your shoulder and saying, this is what you were made to be and to do. Get at it. I'll check in on you. I'll give you everything you need to do it. Let's go. That's what the Great Commission is. And it comes out this way in Matthew 28. Vanessa read it from Mark 16:15. A summarized version which says, as you go, technically, in the Greek, or going, as you're going, preach the gospel. You're going to be going anyways. Everywhere you go, preach the good news to all nations, all creation. In Matthew 28, it's fleshed out a bit more. Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Let's establish where this is coming from. The God of the universe has handed everything over to His Son, Jesus Christ. He's died for our sins. He's risen from the dead. And He stands with His disciples and other followers and says, this is what you need to be about. What does He say then? His last words we might say on this earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, first mention of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you, and surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. When we hear the Mark 16 version, and we initially look at Matthew 28, we think that the primary command is go. And we actually sang a song, send us out, go. So we sing these songs about going. There's nothing wrong with them, because the Bible does say go, as you go, as you're going. But we can sometimes miss out on something that's very significant about this passage. If you know anything about grammar or heard the background of this, there's actually one imperative, one verb, imperative verb, okay? And that's the verb disciple. Next slide. The 3 participles are, in orange, as you're going, baptizing, teaching, disciple. Essentially what it's saying is, what Jesus is saying, be about discipling. Disciple as a verb. In other words, direct people to Jesus. Mentor, apprentice, train, direct people to God. That's the disciple. How do we do it? Or what are the participles or the activities that are also associated with discipling? These 3. On your way, as you go, at work, at home, at school, play, everywhere. It pervades all of our lives. Second, baptizing, including people in God's family, allowing them to publicly declare their faith like we've had here the last couple of Sundays. Letting people publicly declare their faith and allegiance to Christ and include them in the family. And then third, teaching. How can we know what it means to follow Jesus unless we know what He teaches? We have to go to God's Word. We have to teach each other and remind each other of God's Word. So all of these are involved in discipling, or being a disciple and acting out a life of discipleship, or discipling, if you want to look at it that way. So to keep it straight, we're about discipling, going, baptizing, and teaching. They're all part of that. So the Great Command and the Great Commission put it all together. We're to glorify God by loving Him, loving others, and by making disciples, or discipling, going, baptizing, and teaching. There's an interesting thing that's happening. For centuries, we've understood the Great Commission as going or expanding outward from concentric circles from Jerusalem. Judea, Samaria, to the uttermost parts of the world. That's how Jesus said it literally. And the idea was to make sure that everybody knew this wasn't just a Christianity. It just wasn't just a message for Jews. It just wasn't a message for right-living people who lived in the city of Jerusalem, the center of the Jewish world and the center of the Christian world. It was meant to go everywhere. It was meant to permeate the world. Practically speaking, though, it needed to go out from there because that's where Jesus was. So do you remember, have you heard of the Ethiopian treasurer? So he is the treasurer for Queen Candace of Ethiopia, possibly Sudan, actually, area, a greater region possibly than Ethiopia. So he's here in Jerusalem. They're in Jerusalem in Acts 2, but then moving on towards Acts 8. Philip is sharing the gospel in Samaria. Oh, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria. So Philip has gone out to tell people about Jesus, and they're having a ridiculously awesome revival. People are being healed. People are being saved. People are being rescued. Hundreds and hundreds of people. And in the midst of that, God says to Philip, in a voice it seems, hey, you should go to the Gaza Road to meet this guy. You need to talk to him. He transports him there to the Gaza Road. So way out in the desert here, there's this guy traveling. It's a guy from Ethiopia. He's been to Jerusalem. He's going home, and he has yet to hear about Jesus. And he's been to the epicenter of Jewish faith and Christianity, and he has yet to learn about how to follow Jesus. Philip says, you need to follow Jesus Christ. And he showed him from all the Old Testament all the way up into his current time how Jesus was talked about in the Bible. Philip, the unique Ethiopian treasurer, becomes a follower of Jesus. Goes back to Ethiopia, influences possibly the whole continent. So it is moving out. Paul and Peter become missionaries to the Gentiles. It spreads all over the place. But an interesting thing is happening in our day. God seems to be turning the Great Commission around. Well, it's still necessary to go to the 2 million languages in which there are no Bibles yet. Not even one word of the Bible is in those languages. Wow. It's still necessary to go. Megan Carr went recently from here. Lisa Purdy recently went from here. There are other missionaries who have gone out from here whom we support and love and pray for and need to continue to do so. But God's doing a new thing, and he's bringing the world to us. We're going into the world, but now the world's coming to us. Have you noticed that? That there are 1,500 plus international students from 80 nations on our campus, and across Canada, about 400,000. I was in Nanaimo recently. 1,500 international students are there, and no churches are currently coordinating any kind of an effort to welcome them into their churches, to welcome them into their homes. That was the state here about 15 years ago, or 13 years ago. They're not yet welcoming the world that has come to their doorstep. They're in the process of doing it. By next summer, they probably will have a coordinated effort. That's happening here. We see internationals in our churches happening more. But from going to the world coming to us. God is doing a new thing. God says it in Isaiah. See, I'm doing a new thing. It springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. We need to be awake and alive and our eyes open and ears open saying, God, what are you doing now? No, what were you doing then? What are you doing now? Well, an exciting thing is happening, and God is thinking outside the window. Have you ever heard of the 1040 window? I hope you have. Many of us, numerous ones of us, have tried to educate ourselves and each other. This 1040 window is 10 degrees above the equator, up to 40 degrees above the equator. A band all the way from West Africa all the way to East Asia. And in this so-called window live 2/3 of the world's population. And in that 2/3 of the world's population are animism, what we might call animism, atheism, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Those are the primary 5 world religions, world philosophies or approaches to life that exist in there. Did you know that 85% of the students who come to TRU are from there? 85% of the students who come to this university, to your city, have come from a place that are called RAN or CAN nations. RAN nations, restricted access nations. You can't go there explicitly to talk to people about Jesus. You have to go in through ESL or engineering or medical help or something like that. Or CAN nations, creative access nations. You have to be creative about how you get in. Okay? But God is bringing them here. God's doing an amazing new thing. Did you know that in Canada, per capita, immigration is among the world's highest? Canada is among the top 3 international student destinations per capita. And international student enrollment grew from 136,000 in 2001 to over 265,000 in 2012. nearly 100% increase, and now it's gone even further. By current measuring standards, we're at about 400,000 international students, nearly 500,000 to our 35 million in population. The United States has about 1 million international students to their 350 million. Do you see the ratio difference? 400,000 to 35 million, 1 million to 350 million. The ratios, no, it's not even comparable. Far more students per capita are coming to Canada for our population. So God's on the move. He's moving people around. And people movements are God movements. God's sovereignly moving people around so that they might know him. In Acts 4, it's indicated here. And then Acts 17. God is moving people around, verse 27. He's doing this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him. Isn't that interesting? So yes, from a university standpoint, they're coming here to pay our bills. Let's be honest. But and Canada wants to double the number of students in Canada. Why? Economic reasons. Okay? But God's up to something different than all of us have in mind. And according to this, he's up to them maybe being more open to God's love because they're displaced and moving. They're here for a reason. God's brought them here. Wow, that's a great privilege and responsibility, as Vanessa was sharing earlier. Welcoming people, welcoming God movements, welcoming people movements is a great privilege, but it's also a responsibility. In the Old and the New Testament, we're told, welcome the alien and the stranger. Welcome the newcomer. Welcome the guest. Why? A practical reason. You were once a newcomer. By the way, unless you're First Nations, you're an immigrant. If you're a Canadian citizen, if you're not First Nations, you're an immigrant. All of us are immigrants. If you're an international student, obviously then you're an international student. That's different, but you get the idea. We've all been welcomed or forced our way into Canada. Let's be blunt. Over the last centuries, let's be honest. But we're to love other people as we've been welcomed where we are. And in the New Testament, Jesus says, I want you to treat strangers like family. I want you to invite them into your home. I want you to feed and clothe and care and love and be hospitable with them. Because when you do it for them, you're doing it for me, Jesus said. You're honoring God. You're doing this for him when you do so. I want to briefly address a concern that's coming up. Not a concern only of mine, but of many Christ followers. Recently, due to upheaval in our world, there's been a reaction to the moving of people around, refugees in particular, people trying to escape difficult circumstances. Somebody recently posted on Facebook that a link to a blog, and I read the blog and I was fascinated by it. Some Christians are saying, we need to stop. Matter of fact, I just preached somewhere, and after the service, a man came up to me and said, there are 400,000 international students in Canada. They need to cut that down to 100,000. They're just troublemakers and causing, yeah, for real. I was shocked. I was like, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? Immigration, cut that out. They're just coming here to take over, destroy our land, take away our rights, change our lifestyle. We'll never be the same. We need to cut that down. Now, time out for a minute. I understand the need for thoughtful processes in immigration. I'm not for, let's just let everybody come across the borders and not process anybody. Don't get me wrong about that. But here's another perspective to put in the mix. Ryan Dewick says in his blog, I'm sorry, Christian, but you don't get to make that move. What move? Let's read. Even if all of this, that is, fears of people from other countries invading ours and somehow destroying everything we hold dear, isn't that what you see on social media? I hope that you haven't reposted that on your social media, but you've seen it. You've seen people saying, they're coming in here, panic, fear, hysteria. Contrasting with what Jesus said, we don't have a spirit of fear. What's the fear about? What's this fear about? Right? He goes on. Even if all of that was unimaginably true, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we live by a different script. One thing Jesus wasn't at all ambiguous about was how those who followed him were supposed to think about and treat their enemies, or I would say aliens, strangers, newcomers, guests. On this matter, he was painfully, uncomfortably crystal clear. How? Love them. Pray for them. And I would add, welcome them with hospitality and friendship in Jesus' name. And he goes on. So as Christians, there are certain things that we just don't get to do. We don't get to hunt around for excuses for why we don't need to include those people, wherever those people are that you don't want to come to your country, or I feel uncomfortable with, or I feel threatened by, in the category of neighbor. Jesus, when he told us the Good Samaritan story, he picked particularly difficult groups of people to compare, and then made the bad guy the hero. The Good Samaritan. Wow. For Jewish ears hearing that, that was really hard to take. Obviously, one of the things that led to Jesus' death was him constantly confronting people with uncomfortable truths, and this was one of them. We don't get to look for justifications for why it's better to build a wall than open a door. I don't have all the answers to immigration. I don't have the answers to the refugee crisis. I'm not proposing that I do at all. I'm not judgmental and self-righteous about that either. But one thing I do know, Jesus has asked us to love people who come, to welcome them, to rescue them, to give them an opportunity as much as we can. As a Christian, you and I cannot be the promoters on social media of fear, hate-mongering, terror. It's got to end. We cannot be representing that. We can be cautious, we can be careful, we can be concerned about good immigration practices. But our posture can never be, don't let them come here. Not in my backyard. That's not a Christ-like attitude or behavior. It just can't happen. I challenge you with that. I challenge myself with that. Something is missiologically wrong, J.D. Payne says in Strangers Next Door. Missiologically malignant, he says. We're ill, something wrong with our missions. When we are willing to send people across the oceans, risking life and limb and spending enormous amounts of money, but we're not willing to walk next door and minister to the strangers living there. Whether they're neighbors who look just like you and eat your same foods, or whether they're neighbors who come in eating different foods and looking differently than us. We have to be thinking about how to reach out to our neighbors next door. The neighbors God has brought right to our doorstep. Billy Graham put it this way: if you take advantage of the opportunity to show love to internationals who come to you, you might be the person that God uses to bring the next world leader to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. What a concept. Right there in front of you, right next door. Boxing is an example of that. Our ministry is excited to recount this story and looking at other stories as well. But Bach Singh was a former Sikh who began a worldwide indigenous church planting movement in India when he became a Christian while as a student in Canada. One international student at one university and one couple, John and Edith Hayward, he was a professor at the University of Manitoba, invited Bach Singh into their home for a meal. They got to know each other, became friends. Bach Singh wasn't interested in the Christian faith whatsoever, but because of John and Edith Hayward's love, he explored the Christian faith, not unlike a testimony you're about to hear in a few moments. He became a follower of Jesus Christ and went back, was in, I believe, a science kind of a major, left all that and pursued Christian ministry. 10,000 churches resulted from that. 250,000 people were at Bach Singh's funeral. If you think you and I cannot change the course of history or impact the world, we really need to open our eyes and get a greater understanding of how big our God is and the amazing things He can help us to accomplish. This video is going to give you a bit of an overview of what's happening across Canada. And after that, we're going to meet an international student who wants to thank you and tell us more about what God's done in his life.
My vision is that ISMC will be the avant-garde catalyst of international student ministries around the world, empowering international students to impact the world through Jesus Christ.
ISMC has a bunch of stuff going on campus, and most of our campuses will have a focus club as kind of the hub. Our main student event, many students come here and find that it's lonely, that they have a hard time just fitting in, culturally, the language barrier, and so Focus Club becomes their friendship group, becomes a community. It's where they really find they belong when they're in camp.
Just having that safe space where students from all kinds of backgrounds can come and have very honest conversations about God, religion, philosophy, all kinds of things.
There is somewhere that I can relieve my stresses, to be with friends, away from the studies, away from issues and problems.
I have so many friends from all nationalities on campus. Some of my classmates see me and they're like, everybody knows you on campus. I'm like, because of Focus Club.
From there, we like to take the relationships outside of that, whether it's going for coffee with students, being in Bible study, discipleship, evangelism.
We can give them the one thing that they miss most, which is family, a sense of a home away from home. And where does that happen for Asian, Latin American, African students? That happens around a table, because they are very social.
We open up our home as, I guess, kind of a doorstep into Canada. We're thinking of them going to school and learning, so, to create the best environment that we can. And we learn to love these people.
This is my family in Canada. I feel so loved because they respect my values and what are my beliefs, and they really embraced me as not only a student, like a daughter, and that's very special for me.
It's not religion shut down in Israel. What it is unconditional love. And we help people move. We help people learn English. We help people get their driver's license, get their banking, all that kind of stuff that sometimes slips through the cracks. And we do that regardless of whether they have a faith, or if they don't, or if they've said, we're interested, I'm not. We've got people that come to Focus Club and say, I'm not interested in God, but I'm interested in Focus Club. And we say, great. We just want to be able to show you God's love unconditionally.
These are the brightest and the best that come to our country. Should we respond? Absolutely. The future of the world is shaped by these students. We have an opportunity for global and kingdom impact.
What really excites me is seeing so many of our students return to their homelands and reach their families for Christ, or reach their fellow classmates for Christ in places that I couldn't go.
You cannot bring a Bible to Saudi Arabia, but you'll meet many Saudis on the campus, and they're also open to coming to your home to be a friend with you.
I became a Christian while I was on campus. So I was myself an international student. And so I really appreciate that the kind of ministry that allows international students to find a home on campus, to explore questions in life, to explore about faith, and for someone to journey with them in this whole quest for meanings of life.
We're just working the soil, preparing people to be open to receiving the seed being God's word and God's truth. But the point is that God's at work, and when they go back, they're going to be in high positions and have an influence in their country.
Most international students in Canada are the very ones that are the hardest to reach with the gospel. So God is literally pouring these nations into our backyards and giving us an opportunity to reach them with the good news of Jesus, disciple them, and connect them to the local church.
What we really want to do is meet international students on campus, allow them to begin a relationship, and then we want to plug them into families and homes and ultimately into churches.
We really value church partnership, and so we don't want to just be a student group that meets on campus, kind of separated from the world. We want not only churches to be involved and reach out to the students, but we want to be connecting the students to churches in the city.
Oh, I think it just brings so much energy into our church on a Sunday morning. Of course, you have the great pictures in Revelation of every tribe and nation appearing before the throne, and we're getting to taste it now. So that's how I look at it.
Through ISMC, we are able to connect to something really happening in different campuses. We've been seeing these international students coming, and some of them even baptized here in our church. So that's how I see a parachurch organization serves alongside with the local church.
You want this to happen. You need to put some dollars on the table and have some international students coming. It will enrich your congregation.
This is such a simple thing, yet so impacting. That is why I'm involved. This is your opportunity to get involved too and effect global change.
Christ can use you just doing the ordinary things that you do. It doesn't take a lot of special skill. It takes what most people already have. You can speak English, you can make a meal, you can have an authentic friendship. It's the reward of the one-on-one, the relationship that we build with these students.
Families can do a lot for these international students, but just to be a family, just to be a home away from home, provide a meal once in a while, play some games, that's what these students are looking for.
This is something you have to do because God puts you there as a local church and a pastor to reach out to the world through the world coming to your door.
Our big dream is that in 10 years, no international student will come to Canada and not have the opportunity to be loved and led by ISMC or others with the power to do so. So we need you. We need you to pray for our students and our team. We need you to plug in your time and talents, and we certainly need you to partner with us financially. We need people who will invest in this awesome mission of reaching international students. And don't forget, your ROI, your return on investment, is eternal. You can't beat that.
Introduce you to somebody maybe you've already met. His name is Addy, and I just want to ask him a few questions. Addy, can you tell us about how you came all the way from Gujarat state in India? Just let it hear.
Yeah, so my name is Adarsh. I'm from the Gujarat province state in India, and I came so far from that place to here, and it all started from my hobby, learning new things and exploring new culture. Exploring about things that I have never known, and there was a thinking that I want to go far and learn more things. So after a few days, I decided my cousin brother from Vancouver, he called me and asked me like, hey, your semester is over from the 12th grade, right? So I want you to be here for the next first semester in the university. I'm like, whoa, so there's the goal. My goal is getting started now. So this is how I came here.
And who made you feel welcome in Canada? Who were some of the different people or groups who made you feel welcome?
So in the very beginning, the Focus Club, the Mr. Jeff, who I met, I talked in the Chiu, and made me so welcoming, and the friends, the Canadian friends, my host family, Mr. Dan, my host mom, Miss Anne, and my friends, Ben, Eric, who's doing the sound today. Thanks for that. And these are the people who made me welcoming, and I was glad to know them.
You've been on a spiritual journey ever since we've known you. Tell us about that journey and how it's kind of progressed till now. And some of that involves what you call counting the cost. What was that all about?
Yeah, so when I was in grade 6 or 7, I went in my library, home library, and I was finding a book just to read it. And I found a glowing book that attracted my eyes. It was a book called Holy Bible was written on it. And I opened that book and I was like, oh, I'm not understanding these words. They're so heavy for me. They're going through my head. And then I took that book to my father and I asked him like, what's this about? And he explained me further things. And then I had a Christian friend back in India that was so close to me, and I asked all of the questions to him. And this is how I learned more about Christianity. And in past vacation, I was fighting. My brain and my heart was fighting through the faith, through the word, trust in Jesus, following in Him, and I was counting my costs, that what will happen if I become a Christian. So I was talking to him, I was talking to Mr. Jeff, to Ben, and counting the costs. So now I have counted costs and things are going good.
Well, they're going well, but not without their challenges. Something happened this Sunday night, other than a blood moon, full moon, eclipse. Something else happened on a historic day.
Yeah.
Tell us about last Sunday.
So the last Sunday was so important day of my life. So in the morning I came to church, I saw the baptism of 2 of my friends, and I was in intense thinking since morning. And at the evening, at the night, I was doing my computer programming, making new program, and my mind was exploding like anything. I turned off my laptop and I texted my biological father in India that, hey, I want something. Can I get it? Like, I want something. And after that text message, I walked up to my host mom and my dad, and we prayed for me. And after praying, there were tears in my eyes of joy and happiness. And I shouted in the full moon, "Yes, Jesus, I call you in my heart. And I can say you, I'm the Son of the God. I follow you, Jesus." So, this is how it started. Everything. That was like so fun, and it was...
That evening, you and Ophian were reading scripture and praying together, our other host.
Yeah.
And I understand that conversation with your father, you said you want him to accept you.
Yeah.
You're going to follow Jesus even if your family rejects you.
That's true.
However,
So
how did that go?
So I told my father, like, yeah, I want Jesus, and he gave me an answer that, yes, you can follow him. In fact, you can't find him anywhere. You can find him in your heart. When you close your eyes, you can see him. So that's the way of following him. So it's okay for me, but still my mom and my grandfather, they have turned backs on me. This looks like they're rejecting me, or they're finding a way to understand me. These are the things that, so there's no turning back from me now, I don't care that. So here's my family.
Adi has shared with us how much he does care about his family and what they think, but knowing that that's a cost he must pay to follow Jesus if they won't follow with him. Isn't that profound? And that's what he's been praying through. And so we're praying, pray with him, that every family member of his would experience the joy of worshiping God and finding him to be everything that they need. The real thing, Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, and the life. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Is Ben available?
So I'll invite Ben to speak something, and he's been he has played a major role in my journey, teaching me new things, as well as Amit. Where's Amit though? Oh yeah, where's Amit? Okay, so he has played a big role in my major life. Yeah.
I gotta say first off, I see that your buttons are kind of messed up.
I'm Canadian. This is the guy trying to dress Canadian.
Was that, did you mean to do that then? Is that, you making fun of us? What?
That wasn't in the script, man.
All right, so what am I talking about here, Dan?
We've been talking about how it's our privilege to empower and equip and reach out to people who come right into our neighborhood. We're not just feeding the poor. We sing about that, but international students aren't coming poor. They're coming hungry. Yeah, Monday night meals, Friday night meals, important, but primarily they're coming with needing to know what God is doing in their lives and how they can make an impact. And I know that Ben has a real passion, and others of you, to empower, to equip, to invest in other people, and direct people to God. Not to direct people to ourselves to save people so that we can be the hero, but instead directing people straight to God and His Word. Ben, tell us about what was going on in your heart and mind when you were relating to Adi.
Yeah, well, I think, first off, it's just so exciting and such a great opportunity to live here in Kamloops and to be going to TRU, where there are, like Dan said, I think 1,500 international students, and so many of these international students really are interested in Christianity, really are interested in talking about religion and diving into some of these big questions. I remember, I think it was about a week after I met Adi, we had talked a little bit, but maybe hadn't had too many deep conversations yet. And I saw him on the bus, and he says, "Ben, what is life?" So that's kind of where it all started, I guess, for us in our friendship, and kind of in having a journey of kind of talking about a lot of these big questions and stuff like that. But I think for us, here as Canadians, and in Kamloops here, in a place where there are so many international students, we really are in a place where we can just open up our lives, and that's something that I try to do. And with Adi and with some other international students and stuff like that, just try to be a friend. Be a friend. Be a person who genuinely loves others unconditionally, and as I do that, when those opportunities do arise for me to share my faith, making the most of those opportunities and pointing Adi to Jesus, and pointing others to Jesus as well, and it's just so exciting to hear what God has done in Adi's heart, and that yes, Adi, you are now a child of God. You've been adopted into His family, and you are a member of of the church. And it's just so exciting, everything that God is doing.
Thank you so much. And as this song, Let Worship Be the Fuel for Mission's Flame, reminds us that God's gathering people from every tribe and tongue and nation. This last slide, Jordan, if you could move it ahead, acknowledges that that's what happened. God always had it in mind that all nations would be blessed through his people. And further to that, we find in Revelation chapter 7, we see these words. After this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb of God. And here's what we find out about them. These are actually internationals, people from all over the world, who have persevered through the tribulation, if you read that passage. And it says, how could their robes be white? It says, they have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. God is gathering the nations to himself. And we can either get the privilege of being a part of it or ignore what he's doing. We have the privilege of being a part of it. What an amazing thing. So as we move to communion now, let's contemplate that the blood that Jesus shed for you and me, the path that he paid, the way that he made for us through sacrifice, is a way that reminds us that we have a privilege and obligation to reach out to other people and to sacrifice for the needs of others from many nations, tribes, and tongues. Let's bow in prayer. Heavenly Father, as we come to celebrate this communion time, this table, it's an opportunity for thanksgiving, to thank you for what you've done. It's an opportunity to acknowledge that we were lost and far from you, and you came to us. Thank you for welcoming us. Now teach us to welcome others. To welcome them in your name, Jesus, in hospitality and friendship. More than that, to equip and empower them to be the life changers, the nation changers, the world changers that these internationals will be. We're confident that you will help us walk alongside them in that journey. In Jesus' name.